So there's been a $5 million lawsuit brought against a South Florida ACA call center that alleges bait and switch advertising, amongst other questionable practices. And today I have a friend in the business named Oscar Gonzalez, who does tons of ACA marketing, to comment on this very large lawsuit and what it means for ACA as a product that you can sell as an insurance agent, but also what it means for those of you out there who are looking for ACA plans and what the impact is going to be. So, Oscar, how you doing today?
Good, good. Always a pleasure, David. And yeah, good topic, I think, that people need to know about and get educated on. So happy to be here.
So, describe exactly what happened for the audience that is just learning this for the first time.
Yeah, sure. And this is something that it happened, I think, a week or two ago. And so it's pretty prevalent out there. If you look it up, you can find a bunch of articles on it. And basically a South Florida operation that was running ACA healthcare advertisements on social media. And they were heavily advertising money back to consumers. So I think some of the articles specifically talk about video ads that, it was a person saying that, they had qualified for $6,400 in money back to them to help them pay for their groceries, their rent, just basically like that they were going to get a check for $6,400. And all they had to do was click on this link and, sign up for health insurance, basically. And needless to say, when you break down ACA, these are folks that are typically in a low income, middle income. And so, when somebody sees that they can get a free $6,400 check or money or anything like that, you're going to get a lot of people that are going to click on it, and it's extremely deceptive, to say the least. And so yeah, so they did that at a very, very large scale, in the millions of people.
So, in what world did they think that advertising this money back thing would work? I mean, is there anything in the laws that say that the carriers can give back money or anything along those lines? I just don't understand why they would lead with something so blatantly deceptive and think they wouldn't get
It's
caught.
yeah, I think unfortunately there's good players out there. Like anything else, there's bad players out there. And I think what they did was, the twisting of what the rules are and what actually ACA is about, right? And so in general, the ACA health marketplace, the Affordable Care Act, which is what ACA is, it's actually an act, and it was a law that came in, and it created a subsidy system for people to get health care, and for people that couldn't afford health care to get assistance from the government. And so if you make a certain amount of money, you qualify based on how many people live in your household, how much money you make on a yearly basis on your tax return. And based on that number, the government will provide you a certain amount of subsidy, a certain amount of credit towards the cost of your health care. So what happens is, if I qualify for, let's say, $300 a month in subsidies, that money goes directly to the carrier. So if I found a policy that costs $400 a month and that's the one I want, the government's going to pay $300 of that because that's what I qualified for. And I'm now responsible for the difference, $100 in that example. What these guys did is they twisted that a bit and made it sound like it was actual money, I guess, that was coming to a consumer, not just a medical credit towards their premiums.
I see. I see.
And
So
so, yeah, so that's
stooping
that's
low
where it got really twisted.
as salespeople sometimes do. So
Right,
no,
yeah, and then
so
really went extreme with it. Went to a whole different level of it.
and what we're talking about now is a lot of preliminary lawsuit, right? You were talking about there's 100 plus John Does being made that CMS, other regulating bodies haven't even gotten involved. So there's likely to be more problems. What are some of the impacts that this has had on these policyholders that are claiming that this was done against them?
So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing when you look at this kind of stuff, right? And you see it now on the back end. Now that they've done all this, non-compliant, false advertisement stuff, like who did they hurt, right? And that's where I think you find that the government entities, states, that's when they start getting involved, right? When you're really affecting consumers and hurting people's livelihoods, that's when it's a problem. And so the effects of it is, look, if somebody was on a policy, right? And this is part of what the lawsuit kind of talks about. If somebody was on a policy and let's say they have a really bad medical condition and they're on that policy because it covers the medications for that condition, the treatments for that condition, and then all of a sudden that person sees an advertisement that says, "Hey, get $6,000 for free." That person goes, clicks on it, and essentially they were switched, right? That person got switched to a different health insurance plan within the ACA marketplace. Well, now a few things happen, right? One, if they were switched in the middle of the year and they went to a different carrier, that person is now responsible for meeting the deductible, if any, on that policy again to its fullest before getting coverages from that carrier or that plan. And if the person perhaps is on a condition where coverages are not as favorable for that illness that they had, they could be looking at so much more as far as out-of-pocket expenses that they have to meet. And so I think that's where the real damage happens, where you're really hurting people by switching them out of a policy that they really needed and were counting on. And now we're being put into plans that perhaps didn't offer them the same coverages.
And how aware were these clients, do you imagine, about making these switches? Was it transparently given to them that they would be making a switch and everything would be the same? Do you think there's a lot of underhanded activity that happened?
Oh
And did the
gosh,
client even give the okay to do that?
I think from the initial reports and articles that you see out there from all these news places and local news and even the lawsuit that's out there, you know, it looks like it was pretty deceptive. It's like, people were agreeing to change, but did really truly understand what was taking place. Because again, you have to think that consumer is being motivated by money, right? By the idea that they're going to get thousands of dollars sent to them. Well, a lot of things for a consumer can go to the wayside for anybody, right? If you're being offered thousands of dollars just to switch health insurance, right? And so that's the deceptive, and that's where taking advantage of people really comes in. So I think technically on paper, like, did the person agree to it? Maybe, perhaps they got authorizations, but it also looks like from reading some of these articles that people were switched without some consent and were being like shifted back and forth, which is a big issue within the ACA industry right now, is the ability to switch the agent of record on a plan.
So let's talk about the consequences of this. So for the agent, what do you think is going to happen from this? Going after a big call center like this, there's probably others out there that are doing something similar. How does
Yeah.
this affect the working agent writing ACA? Is it going to be harder? Is it going to be easier? Your thoughts?
I think right now it's harder. At the very present time, it's the market has become very tough, right? And that is the result of misleading ads, right? One, competing against that, right? Because why would somebody go on and to just get health insurance when they can click on an ad that says they're going to get thousands of dollars for health insurance? So that was the initial challenge last year when these ads were really running out there at the tune that they were. And now that those ads have slowed down, you still see them, right? I still see them out there. They just don't see them as much, but a few things happen. So on the marketing side of it, on the consumer side of it, now that people are becoming educated, the consumer understands that these are really just scams and not real. Well, they're less likely to click on any ad for health insurance, right? So we're really ruining the trust that a lot of good agents like myself and many others that are out there trying to do good business. It's just, we all are wearing the black eye now, so to speak. And so I think it's going to take some time for that to wash out. And I look for CMS and authorities to step into this thing and make changes. Until we see real change happen to how these things are structured, I think the ACA marketplace is a tough place to be in, until they clean it of all of it. And I don't know if it's ever going to be cleaned of all of it, but if they can get the majority of this stuff cleaned up, I think that's going to be a really good opportunity for ACA agents to go into it. For now, leads cost more, right? It's harder to get people on the phone. It's tougher to get somebody to trust you and give you the okay to sign them up for health insurance. So I think, and I always, as a lead generator and a marketing company, this is where branding yourself and having a presence that somebody can go and look at and say, you know what, this person is doing good business. They have Google reviews. They're on Facebook. They're on here. I think that becomes more and more important for an industry like ACA. But I do think that there will be a really great opportunity as this stuff starts really getting shut down and you see FCC get involved and CMS. I think that's when the people who are left doing it are going to take a second look. Because one thing is like, civil action, right? And they pay a fine and they move away and whatever. But once you start getting into like criminal offenses and stuff like that, that's when you start seeing the bad guys stop and move into something else. So I think that's what'll happen here. And I look forward to that moment, right? When we can really start focusing on having a competitive market based on good marketing, good advertising, and we all have a fair shot to help people with insurance.
So bottom line, ACA is here to stay. We just need to filter out and flush out the Wild West elements. It's been a Wild West for a while.
Yeah.
I think, these big lawsuits like this, which you'll probably see more of and larger amounts of, are only going to get rid of the bad news guys and make this business better. So, Oscar, if anybody's interested in doing lead generation for ACA, final expense, and other products, I think IULs too, Oscar does marketing. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do to wrap it up with so the audience can find out more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of lead generation systems where we help agents and really a lot of agencies now set up their own lead generation systems using Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and some of the other platforms that are out there. And we manage all of it. We create video creatives. We handle everything from front to back. It's really a done for you kind of turnkey solution. So we provide that across most lines of insurance, Medicare, like you said, ACA, all life insurance products. We're really heavy in that. A lot of private health that we're doing. And so if anybody has any questions or wants to get information on that, they can go to www.scalemysocial.io, or they can look us up on social media at ScaleMySocial, really just about everywhere.
Oscar, thank you for being here.
Always a pleasure. Glad we got a chance to talk about this. I think it's going to help out a lot of agents and looking forward to the next one. Thanks, David.